It's time for Maximum Mayhem! Hey guys, it's Killjoy back again, by viewer request, making a boat that drowns players. Mistakes were made along the way. Many mistakes. So many mistakes. So many mistakes. But let's see how we create it. So the first thing I did was, when modifying my boat, I've added a whole bunch of fluid ports so that we can get as much water into the cabin as possible and as rapidly as possible. So what we're going to do is actually create an entire tank of water on top of the cabin that we can then use a series of pumps, rapidly pump into the cabin and flood the player, hopefully drowning them. So here we are building out the tank. One of the problems with working on an existing boat is you want to make sure that your traps look like they belong there and they don't necessarily raise suspicion. So now we're running a series of pipes all along the existing boat to eventually get down to the bottom of the boat and pull up water from the ocean so that we can replenish that tank on top of the ship. That tank will not have enough water to completely flood the cabin, so that'll get us started while these pumps then work to provide as much water as possible. Here I was able to add 3 large pumps and a small pump, so a total of 4 water lines to replenish that tank. Running it through the fuel tank sides, up through the boat, and across. And now we'll just fill things in, repaint it so it looks like nothing ever was there. Add in a water spawner so it starts fully full of water. Add some decorations, connect the power, connect the pumps, and spawn it in. And it sank directly to the bottom. Clearly there's a problem. So after careful inspection, found 3 blocks missing from the fuel tank that then caused the boat to spawn in with the hull completely full of fuel. Patched it, and now it at least sort of floats, although it's certainly front heavy. We also seem to have a severe stability problem, so any little bit of weight causes the boat to tip. Spawning in again and jumping towards the middle of the boat so that we're better balanced. And now we can at least try to start the engines. Throttling up. Nope, not going to work this time. Trying again. Any little wave just causes the boat to tip. So, let's add some more weight to the back to improve stability. I like to use large batteries because then they provide electrical power in addition to the weight, unlike just weight blocks. Will this extra stability do the trick? It's not looking so good. So I think the problem is that we just have far too much weight with that water tank on the top of the boat. So reducing the size of the water tank, adding back in the spawner, removing the tires which no longer fit, and we can successfully actually drive the boat. We're upright. We're moving along. Things are looking good. Now to press the button. We can see the tank is filling up from water from the ocean. We're also filling the cabin with water, and in very rapid succession we've been able to completely drown the player. In this case, I've come prepared and am wearing underwater breathing apparatus. But we are swimming in the cabin. So now that we've tested to make sure it works, let's actually do it with a microcontroller and create a keypad so that players have to enter in a special code in order to be able to use our boat. And if they get it wrong, we drown them. So just putting in the keypad on the boat here. Not the right orientation, so fix that. There we go. And replace the engine start button with a locked button. So what that'll do is make the player have to enter in a code, otherwise they won't be able to go anywhere. So keyed button, type in the name of the key, in this case for authorization. So microcontroller is quite simple as far as the inputs. It accepts a number coming in, it'll unlock the engines, it'll also lock the door and start the pumps. So, after a lot of trial and error, let's look at the microcontroller that I created. How it works is a number is entered into the keypad, and this number is evaluated against the code phrase, in this case 6969. If the code and the number entered matched, we turn on the engines and take no other action. If they don't match, then we also do a check to see, is the code entered 0.00? This is the code that's entered in by default when the boat spawns. If this is equal, if the code in the keypad is equal to 0.00, then what we do is we temporarily replace that code with 6969 and pass it along to be evaluated. Because it matches the expected code, the pumps and the door are not locked. This prevented a problem where the cabin would immediately flood upon spawning in the boat, as well as locking me out, which was quite frustrating. So the other thing we want to do, though, is we don't want to have this code be okay forever. We only want to allow it for a certain period of time, in this case 90 seconds, so that the player must take action. So if the player does nothing for 90 seconds, they'll be locked out of the cabin, and the cabin itself will be flooded. What happens next is the code that they enter, provided it's not 6969, is evaluated to see if it's less than 6969 or more than 6969, essentially doing a not equal to. If either of these statements is true, we initiate a timer for 180 seconds that then turns on all the pumps as well as locks the door, trapping the person into the boat and drowning them. Okay, let's give it a try. Ignore the fact that the boat is partially underwater. Once we get moving, it gets up on top of the waves and will no longer flood. So now we're in the helm. We can see our keypad. We can see that the engines are disabled. We can't turn them on. And, you know, we're not flooding. Everything is perfectly normal. So we can sit here, we can look at the cameras, and time is ticking away. It's probably been about 30 seconds since we first started. Right now we have full diving equipment. We'll be replacing this now that we know we want to drown unsuspecting players. And you'll also see the pattern of inlets, you know, looks intentional. It looks like, okay, well, this is just some decoration. It's not necessarily something that makes you go, oh, I need to get out of this boat right away. We can go ahead and initiate our generator. Start making power. Clutch in. And now we're making some electric. we can get battery status, those sort of things. All of our monitors are working. Oh, and we are flooding. So let me quickly type in the number. Okay, and we've typed it in. The door is now open. Let me go ahead and just drain that out. And we use our engines. Throttle up, clutch up, and we are off and running. Okay, so this will quickly drain. In fact, let's do this. And engage the solid rocket boosters, and as you can see, the boat is now up on plane, and we are cruising quite fast. Now, come down, close these doors. Here is this door, and if I type in any other code, including, in this case, 0.00, which is the default code that comes in, you'll notice that now it immediately starts to fill, the doors are locked, and I am trapped until I enter the proper code. So that's it. It works. Yeah, and I'm going to sign off before I die.